The Wild West was a land of lawlessness, where legends were made with the crack of a gunshot, and sometimes broken just as fast. Among them, one name stood above the rest: Wild Bill Hickok, a gunslinger so fast, so deadly, that even the most hardened outlaws feared to meet his gaze. He was more than a lawman. He was a living myth, a man whose reputation could silence a saloon before he even stepped through the door. But what if I told you that the greatest gunslinger of them all made a mistake so devastating, so unthinkable, that it would haunt him until the day he died? A mistake not in battle, not against an enemy, but against a friend. This is the untold story of Wild Bill Hickok's greatest regret, and the moment that changed everything.
Put your hands up for stories untold, echoes of glory and hearts so bold. We dig deeper where the truth will glow, forgotten history, let the rhythm flow.
Before we dive into this gripping story, take a moment to support the Forgotten History channel. Just a simple click on that like button and subscribing helps us bring more forgotten tales of history to life. And best of all, it's completely free. By supporting the channel, you're keeping these incredible stories alive for future generations. And we want to hear from you. What do you think was the biggest mistake ever made in the Wild West? Was it Wild Bill's regret, or do you have another in mind? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's get the discussion going. To understand the weight of Wild Bill Hickok's fatal mistake, we first need to understand the man himself. He was more than just a gunslinger. He was a symbol of law and order in the untamed frontier. But that law was written in blood, and that order was often maintained at the barrel of a gun. In an era where a man's reputation could be built or destroyed in the blink of an eye, Hickok stood above the rest. He had the reflexes of a predator and the cold, calculating precision of a seasoned warrior. It was said that no one could outdraw him, not in a duel, not in a fight, not even in the chaos of a full-scale shootout. Whether facing down an outlaw in a saloon or restoring order to a lawless town, Wild Bill was a force of nature. But behind the legend, there was a man who carried the weight of his own myth, who lived knowing that every challenge, every fight was another chance for someone to take their shot at the fastest gun in the West. His name alone was enough to send lesser men running. But what happens when the man behind the legend begins to feel the burden of it all? By 1876, Hickok's legend was already cemented in history. But his greatest trial wasn't a duel. It was a mistake. As the Marshal of Hays City, Kansas, he was the law in a town teeming with danger. Gunfights, drunken brawls, and outlaws looking to make a name for themselves were daily occurrences. Yet, despite the lawlessness, there was one man Hickok trusted at his side: his young deputy, Mike Williams. Williams was eager, ambitious, and dedicated to upholding the law, just like his hero, Wild Bill. He idolized the legendary gunslinger, following him like a shadow, watching his every move, hoping to learn the trade of keeping the peace with a steady hand and an unwavering heart. But on one fateful day, that trust was shattered forever. A street brawl had erupted outside the saloon, chaos spilling into the dusty roads, fists swinging, bottles shattering, and gun hands itching. Hickok moved fast, his instincts razor sharp, his mind trained to make split-second decisions. Then, a figure lunged toward him. Without hesitation, Hickok drew his revolver and fired. The sharp crack of gunfire cut through the air. For a moment, everything froze. The dust settled. The chaos stilled. Hickok's breath caught in his throat as he saw who was crumpled on the ground before him. His own deputy, Mike Williams, clutching his chest, eyes wide in shock and betrayal. Wild Bill Hickok, the fastest gun in the West, had just killed the one man who had believed in him the most. The shot echoed through the streets, silencing the chaos. The shouting stopped. The fighting stopped. Even the wind seemed to die in that moment. Hickok stood frozen, staring at the man he had just gunned down, his own friend, his own deputy. The realization crushed him. He, the fastest and deadliest gunslinger in the West, had made the one mistake no lawman could afford to make. A mistake that couldn't be undone. For a long moment, he didn't move. His revolver, still smoking, remained gripped tightly in his hand, his fingers unable to release it. The dust around Mike Williams began to settle, but Hickok's world had just begun to crumble. The men in the saloon, the outlaws, the law-abiding folk. Every pair of eyes were on him, filled with shock, horror, disbelief. News of the tragedy spread fast. By nightfall, the whispers had become a roar. Wild Bill Hickok shot his own deputy. The words followed him, spreading from town to town, haunting him like an outlaw's shadow. Even as he continued to roam the West, gambling and living on the edge, the ghost of that fateful moment never left him. It followed him into every saloon, every card game, every whiskey glass. No matter how far he rode, the memory of that gunshot, the one he should have never fired, was always with him. Wild Bill Hickok's legacy is a tale of heroism, skill, and an unbearable mistake. For years, he had lived by the gun, surviving shootouts that would have claimed lesser men. He walked the line between lawman and legend, his name spoken with both reverence and fear. But no gunslinger, no matter how fast, can outrun time or fate. In the summer of 1876, Wild Bill found himself in the gold rush town of Deadwood, South Dakota, a place teeming with fortune seekers, gamblers, and outlaws. He was older now. His reflexes still sharp, but the weight of the past heavy upon him. On August 2nd, he sat down for a card game at Nuttall and Mann's saloon. He usually took a seat facing the door, always wary, always watching. But on this day, for reasons unknown, he sat with his back exposed. It was a mistake that cost him everything. Jack McCall, a drifter with a grudge, seized the opportunity. He stepped forward, raised his gun, and fired. The bullet struck Hickok in the back of the head, killing him instantly. He never saw it coming. Just weeks before, he had confided in a friend that he felt something closing in on him. Perhaps he knew his time was running short. His final regrets were whispered in the dead of night, never to be undone. But legends are not infallible. Even the greatest heroes can falter, and it is how they carry their burdens that truly defines them. Today, his name is etched in history, not just as a gunslinger, but as a man who faced the weight of his own myth. Wild Bill Hickok's story is a powerful one. Heroism, regret, and the weight of a single tragic moment. But what do you think? Was this the biggest mistake ever made by a Wild West legend, or are there others that rival it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten history, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Forgotten History channel, and hit that notification bell. Your support helps us uncover more lost stories from the past, and best of all, it's completely free. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Forgotten History channel.